If you want to see our previous videos, then click the channel name or picture below the video, then go to the video or playlist option. This is Buri Critical Valmiki Ramayana book chapter 14. The intelligent one reflected for some time on what he should say. Press the red subscribe option and press the bell icon for my latest video updates. Having regained his senses, the one who knew about the Vedas told the king, "So that you can have sons and daughters, I will perform a sacrifice. I will observe the ordinance and mantras decreed by Atharvashirasa and they will be successful." He then performed the sacrifice that generates sons and daughters, chanting mantras and following the indicated rites. The energetic one offered oblations into the fire. As is appropriate, the gods, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, and the supreme rishis assembled there to receive their shares. In the proper way, the gods who had gathered in that assembly spoke these great words to Brahma, the creator of the worlds, the illustrious one. Through your favors, the Rakshasa named Ravana is using his valor to obstruct us in every possible way. We are incapable of subjugating him, O illustrious one. In ancient times, because of your affection, you granted him a boon. Since then, we have had to respect him in every way and have had to tolerate him. The evil minded one shows his enmity against all those who rise up and oppresses the three worlds. As he wills, he torments Shakra, the king of the gods. He is invincible and confused because of the boon he has received. He acts against the rishis, the yakshas, the gandharvas, the asuras, and the brahmanas. The sun god cannot torment him, the wind god cannot blow against his flanks. On seeing him, the god of the ocean, with his turbulent waves, cannot make his tremble. There is great fear from that Rakshasa who is terrible to look at. O illustrious one, you should think of a means to bring about this death. He was thus addressed by all the gods. He thought for a while and said, "The means of countering that evil souled one and staying him has been decided." He had asked that Gandharvas, Yakshas, gods, Danavas, and Rakshasas should be incapable of slaying him, and I had agreed to his desire because of his disrespect towards them. The Rakshasa had not mentioned humans. Therefore, a man will bring about his death. His death cannot occur in any other way. On hearing the agreeable words, Brahma spoke. All the gods and Maharshis were delighted. At that time, the immensely radiant Vishnu arrived there. He approached Brahma, who was still meditating. All the gods bowed down before him and said, "O Vishnu, for the sake of the welfare of the worlds, we wish to invoke you." The Lord, King Dasharatha, is the king of Ayodhya. He knows about Dharma and is talked about. His energy is like that of a Maharshi. His three wives are virtuous, prosperous, and famous. O Vishnu, divide yourself into four parts and become their sons. You will be born as man. The gods find him to be invincible. He is like a growing thorn that the worlds face. Defeat Ravana in a battle. The Rakshasa Ravana is stupid. However, because his valor has been ignited, he obstructs gods, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, and the supreme rishis. The terrible Ravana is fierce in his energy. His enmity and intolerance towards the Lord of the gods has increased. He is like a thorn to the virtuous ascetics and makes them scream, save the ascetics from that great fear. Next, Narayana Vishnu was thus engaged by the supreme gods. Through he knew all this, he spoke these gentle words to the gods: O God, what is the means to bring about the death of the Lord of the Rakshasas? How will I slay the one who is like a thorn to the rishis? Thus addressed, all the gods replied to the undecaying Vishnu: assume a human form and slay Ravana in a battle or destroyer of enemies over a long period of time. He has tormented himself through freeze austerities. Brahma, the creator of the worlds and worshipped by the worlds, was satisfied at this content. The Lord granted a boon to the Rakshasa. With the exception of humans, he will not face fear from any other creature. Because of disrespect, in those ancient times, he ignored humans at the time of the boon, O scourger of enemies. Therefore, it is evident that his death can only come about through men. The compassionate Vishnu heard the words spoken by the gods. The idea of choosing King Dasharatha as his father appealed to him. The king was without a son, and at that time the immensely radiant destroyer of enemies was performing a sacrifice with a desire to obtain sons. A great being manifested himself from the sacrificial fire. He was immensely valorous and immensely strong, infinite valiant. He was dark and attired in red garments. His face was red, and his voice was like the rumbling of a drum. His eyes were tawny, however, his body, with an excellent beard and hair, was pleasant. He possessed all the auspicious signs, and he was adorned with celestial ornaments. He was as tall as the peak of a mountain, and his valor was like that of a proud tiger. His form was like that of a sun, blazing like the flames of a fire. He held a vessel made of molten gold, covered with a lid made out of silver. It looked agreeable as a beloved wife and was full of celestial payasam. He held it himself in his extended hands, and it seemed to be like some Maya. On seeing King Dasharatha, he spoke these words: O king, know me to be a being who has been sent here by Prajapati. The king joined his hands in salutation and addressed the Supreme One: O illustrious one, welcome. What can I do for you? The being sent by Prajapati again spoke these words: O king, you have worshipped the gods and have now obtained this. O tiger among men, this payasam has been made by the gods and gives rise to progeny. It is blessed and increases good health. Accept it. Give it to your deserving wives and make them eat it, O king. Through them you will obtain the sons you performed the sacrifice for. The king was delighted. He bowed his head down and accepted the golden vessel given by the gods, filled with food that the gods ate. He worshipped that extraordinary being, so agreeable to behold. He was filled with great delight and circumambulated him. Dasharatha obtained the payasam prepared by the gods. He was overcome by great delight, like a poor person who has obtained riches. Having accomplished his task, the supremely radiant being, extraordinary in form, instantly vanished. The inner quarters seemed to be bathed in rays of delight, like the pleasant autumn sky when it is enveloped by the moon's beams. He entered the inner quarters and told Kaushalya, for the sake of obtaining a son, accept this payasam. The king gave half of the payasam to Kaushalya. The king gave half. What remained to Sumitra. For the sake of obtaining a son, he gave half what remained to Kaikeyi. Having thought about it, the Lord of the earth again gave what remained of the Pyasam, which was like Amrita, to Sumitra. In this way, the king gave separate shares of the Pyasam to his wives. The supreme wives of the king obtained the Pyasam, and all of them, through this was a great honor, their hearts were full of joy. Next, after Vishnu had become the son of the great souled king, the illustrious Swayambhu spoke these words to all the gods. The valiant Vishnu is devoted to the truth, and all of you are his well wishers. Assume forms that you desire and create powerful aids, ideas for him. Let this be accomplished in Maya and bravery with a speed that is like that of the wind. Let them know about policy and possesses intelligence. Let them be like Vishnu in valor, let them be indestructible, and let them know about all the means. Let their bodies be divine. Let them know about all weapons like those who subsist on Amrita. Let them be born from the bodies of the best among Apsaras and Gandharva women. Let them be born through Yaksha, Panaga, Riksha, and Vidyadhara maidens. Let them be born from the limbs and bodies of Kinnara and Vanara ladies. Create sons who are your equals in valor. Create them in the form of apes. Thus, addressed by the illustrious one, they agreed to adhere to his instructions. They gave birth two sons who were like apes in form, the great souled rishis, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, the serpents, and Charanas created brave sons who roamed around in the forest. They created many thousand who would rise up to slay Dashagriva. They were brave and valiant, immeasurable in strength. They could assume any form at will. Those immensely strong ones possessed bodies that were like elephants and mountains. They swiftly took birth as rikshas, banaras, and gopuchas. Each god had a different kind of form, attire, and valor, and the sons who were separately born mirrored this from the father. Some born from a Golangula woman were superior in valor. There were other born to Riksha, Vanara, and Kinnara women. All of them fought with rocks. All of them used trees as weapons. All of them fought with nails and teeth. All of them were knowledgeable about all kinds of weapons. They were capable of dislodging the greatest of mountains. They could shatter and uproot large trees. With their speed, they were capable of agitating the ocean, the lord of the rivers. They were capable of shattering the ground with their feet. They could leap over the great ocean. They were capable of seizing the clouds in the sky. They could capture crazy elephants when these roamed around in the forest with the sound of their roars. They could make birds fall down. Such were the apes that were born, and they could assume any form at will. The number of such great souled ones was in millions. Brave ones were born as leaders and of troops of apes. There were thousands who departed to dwell on the slopes of Mount Rikshavat. There were many others who resided in other mountains and groups. Sugriva was the son of Surya and Bali was the son of Indra, means Chakra. All the lords among apes served these two brothers. Their bodies were like large masses of clouds. The leaders among the herd of Vanaras were immensely strong. They arrived on earth assuming terrible forms. They assembled so as to help Rama. Next chapter. When the great soul one's horse sacrifice was over, the gods accepted their respective shares and returned to wherever they had come from with the Uh, consecration and rituals over, the king entered the city with his servants, soldiers, and mount, and accompanied by his wives. The king honored the other kings in accordance with what they deserved, bowing down before the bull among sages. They joyfully returned to their own countries. When the kings had departed, placing the supreme Brahmanas at the forefront, the prosperous king Dasharatha again entered his own city, honored while Rishishinga left with Shanta having taken his leave. The intelligent king also left with his followers. Born as a portion of Vishnu, Kaushalya gave birth to the immensely fortunate Rama, the extender of the Ishvaku lineage, and was who possessed all the divine signs. With the immensely energetic sun, Kaushalya was radiant. She was like Aditi after having given birth to the supreme god, the one with the Vajra in his hand. Kaikeyi gave birth to Bharata, for whom truth was his valor. He was like a fourth portion of Vishnu himself and possessed all the qualities. Sumitra gave birth to the sons Lakshmana and Shatrughna. All of them were brave and skilled in all weapons. They were born as Vishnu's portions. The king's four great souled sons were born separately. They possessed all the qualities and were as resplendent as Prasthapada. When 11 days were over, the ceremony for giving names was undertaken. The eldest was the great soul Rama. Kaikeyi's son was Bharata. Sumitra's son were Lakshman and Satrughna. Extremely delighted, Vashishta gave them their names. He also performed the rites connected with birth and all the other sacrament. The eldest one, Rama, was like a standard and brought great pleasure to his father. He appeared to all creatures as if he was the revered Swayambhu. All of them knew about the Vedas. All of them were brave and devoted to the welfare of creatures. All of them were learned and all of them possessed all the qualities. Among them, Rama, with truth as his valor, was immensely energetic since childhood. Lakshmana, the extender of prosperity, was extremely pleasant. He was always devoted to his eldest brother. Rama, one who brought delight to the worlds with body and soul, he always did what brought Rama pleasure. Lakshmana possessed prosperity through his body was different. His breath of life was like Rama's. Without him, Purushottama was unable to go to sleep. Without him, he would not eat any delicious food that was brought to him. When Raghava rode a horse and went out a hunt, he wielded a bow and protected him from the near. Shatrughna, Lakshmana's younger brother, was thus attached to Bharata. He was always dearer than his own life and remained devoted to him. Dasharatha loved these four extremely fortunate sons. He was extremely delighted with them, like the grandfather with the gods. All of them possessed learning, all of them possessed all the qualities. They possessed humility and were renowned. They knew everything and were far-seeing. With his priests and relatives, the great soul King Dasharatha started to think about their marriages. In an assembly of his ministers, the great soul one reflected on this. At that time, the immensely energetic and great sage Vishwamitra arrived there. He told the gatekeeper that he wished to meet the king. Quickly tell him that Kaushika, Gadhi's son, has arrived. Hearing this and pretended in their minds, they were urged by these words and rushed towards the king's residence. They went to the king's abode and told the king, who was descended from the Ishvaku lineage, that Rishi Vishwamitra had arrived. Hearing these words, he was delighted. He controlled himself and with his priests headed for the place like Vashava towards Brahma. The ascetic, firm in his vows, was radiant. On seeing him with a cheerful face, the king offered him argha. Following the rituals instructed in the sacred text, he escaped argya from the king and asked about the king's welfare. When Vasishtha arrived, the immensely fortunate one asked about the welfare of the bull among sages and also that of the other rishis. Worshipped and cheerful in their minds, all of them entered the king's residence. Each sat down on the seat he deserved. The extremely generous king was delighted in his mind. He cheerfully worshipped the great sage Vishwamitra and said, "Your arrival here is like the receipt of Amrita, like rain in a place that is without water, like a barren wife giving birth, and like getting back riches that have been destroyed. O great sage, I think that your arrival here signifies joy like that. Welcome, I am delighted. What can I do for you? What is your great desire? O Brahmana, O one who follows Dharma, you are a worthy recipient, and it is good fortunate that you have come here. Today, my birth has been rendered successful, and it is as if I have indeed lived a successful life. You were earlier known as a Rajrishi and blessed in radiance because of your austerities. You, when you then become a Brahmana Rishi, you should be worshipped by me in several ways. O Brahmana, your arrival here is supremely sacred and wonderful, O Lord. Morally, by looking at you, it is as if I have visited an auspicious spot. Please tell me what you desire and the reasons for your coming here. If I can ensure the fruition of your desire, I will be greatly blessed. O Kaushika, you are like a god to me. Unless I do not deserve to be told, you should tell me about the task that needs to be performed, and I will accomplish it completely. The Supreme Rishi heard these words, which were pleasant to hear about and brought happiness to the heart. They were uttered with humility by someone who possessed all the qualities and was famous for his qualities. He was greatly delighted.